Today I want to talk about the special set of episodes that was released in Japan exactly 20 years ago, the Digimon World Tour series in Adventure 02. This was a 3-part Christmas special, and I have to say, this was probably my favorite batch of episodes in the entire show. So let me give my reasons why I love these set of episodes so much. In Adventure 02, we got introduced to some of the international digidestined, such as Michael, and even in the Adventure 02 movie, we got introduced to Willis, both ironically from America. But it was in these 3 episodes where we actually saw potentially how many digidestined there actually are, and they eventually play a big part in the story in helping the main group of digidestined to beat Malomyotismon in the finale of Adventure 02. Even though we haven't seen much from them personality wise, because let's face it, 3 episodes is nowhere near enough time to distinguish so many new characters and their personalities, but the feel of the show, it makes it more grand and epic. The fact that there even are international digidestined is like the ultimate backup plan for our main group. In season 1, when we saw Malomyotismon and his army invade Japan, the reason why it was so epic the first time is because we are now seeing the human population, in this case all of the Japanese people, having to coexist with the Digimon, and in the first season it didn't exactly go accordingly for the Japanese people. Myotismon's army was just causing chaos throughout the city and even brought the city to a standstill, with the fog disrupting the Japanese people in their commute, as we saw so many people get stuck in their airports and the train stations. It felt so surreal when we saw this happening for the first time as kids. That's why I believe the Myotismon arc was a fan favorite, because all the madness and destruction didn't take place in the digital world, it took place in our world, the real world. It's like a mix of Godzilla and Jurassic Park 2, where the big titanic monsters wreak havoc throughout the city. If anything bad happens in the digital world, it would only affect the digidestined, their partners, and the digital world itself. But if anything happened in the real world, the digidestined, their loved ones, and the human race in general would be in catastrophe. That was the surrealness feel that we all had when watching it as kids, and that same feeling happened for me again when we saw the realization that, hey, it's not just Ty and his team or Davis and the O2 kids. There's so many digidestined out there that can potentially be part of the main story and make it just this epic adventure. In season 1, the Digimon only invaded Japan, but in Adventure 02, the Digimon were all over the world, and for me it did have that grandness to it when we found out that the Digimon were everywhere. The team-ups happening in these episodes are also another reason why I love these episodes so much, because some of the characters that were teamed up, we rarely see them interact on screen together. Davis and Mimi, Izzy and Kari, as well as Ken and Matt are the ones that we rarely saw on screen together. Ty and TK is a throwback to season 1 when TK was still the little one and Ty was taking care of him whenever Matt wasn't around, basically acting like a big brother whenever Matt wasn't there. Joe and Cody have interacted a few times throughout 02, and I feel Cody does look up to Joe like an older brother or a teacher / sensei kind of way, because there is a bit of an age gap between those two. And Sora and Yoli are basically sisters. One is cool-headed, the other one has a bit of fire in her. However, for me, the mix of different characters really did spice it up for me. Davis and Mimi are actually more alike than we think. They're both leaders and always get people to follow them. They're just so likable. I did character videos on both Davis and Mimi, so please do go and check them out. I go into depth more in terms of that aspect of their characters. Those two being very similar characters, I wanted to see them both on screen together. Ken and Matt are basically the number 2 to Ty and Davis. When Ken joined the O2 cast, he basically became the Matt of that season. Not in terms of the rivalry between himself and the main character, although you can say that rivalry was there when Ken was the Digimon Emperor, but more so the second in command, with him being the second obviously and Davis being the leader. It wasn't TK or Kari, that's for sure. TK DNA Digivolved last, whilst Ken and Davis were the first to DNA Digivolve. That tells you all you need to know on how the show wanted to portray Ken as the number 2. Not only that, the brooding lone hero aspect resonates with both Ken and Matt, so it works with both of them being together. The comedy, especially in the English dub, is hilarious. I'm a person who is easily amused, so all the jokes for me just makes me laugh. Like Joe, for instance, talking to Derek, one of the Australian digidestined. Why is Australia called Down Under? Because it's not really under anything. Or even Sora and Yoli introducing themselves at least 5 times to Anna, Sonia and Yuri. The show did a good job here with the language barrier. You almost forget that not all of them can speak English or Japanese. Or even Rosa having a crush on Ken, but you have Wormmon being jealous of her. There was that scene where Rosa fell over and Ken picked her up and put her on his back. And straight after you had Wormmon fall over with his eyes closed, he jumped up and assumed that Ken would catch him. Instead, he awkwardly jumps into Gatsuman. That was jokes. And there were many more fun moments like that in these 3 episodes. I know how people will say that these 3 episodes feel like filler and it doesn't really enhance the plot, because all that's really going on is that the original Digidestined team and the O2 cast are teaming up with the international Digidestined to destroy the control spires and return the invaded Digimon back into the digital world. And yes, that is true. That is basically the plot of these 3 episodes, but you're missing the point. These episodes are not supposed to be taken seriously or have this heavy, deep story going on with them. It's a Christmas special. It's supposed to be fun and capture the holiday spirit, and that's what it did. Now let me rank the segments from the last to the best. And guys, just because it's last, it doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it. Like I said at the start of the video, these episodes are my favorite episodes to watch in Digimon. Period. From my last pick, it's TK and Tai in Paris. We had some new characters introduced, more specifically TK's granddad, who is batshit crazy. And I don't blame TK and his family living in Japan to stay away from their crazy granddad. But this was for me the weakest out of all of them, mainly because the Mamemon were quite underwhelming in the fight. You see Magna Angemon and Metal Greymon, and you see this Metal Balloon, which is what they essentially are fighting against. Is basically a mismatch. And I wish Catherine wasn't just a girl that needed rescuing. I think we could have done more with her character, but it is what it is. I still enjoyed it nonetheless. The fight scenes were still quite good. Joe and Cody in Australia. I love the ocean, so them fighting in the barrier reef really got me excited. And Joe is hilarious. In these scenes, the dub, oh my god, the dub, man. Just watching it back as an adult, the jokes are actually too good. Well, in my opinion anyway. The Australian Jedi, his name is Hogan, and of course it will remind me of Hulk Hogan solely because of that name. But they had the environmental storyline here with them fighting in the reef and protecting it from Scorpiomon. I personally think Zudomon was nerfed heavy in this fight. I think he could have taken out Scorpiomon by himself, in my opinion. But you know what? We saw Koelamon and Derek teaming up with Joe and Cody. But again, Joe just cracked me up throughout this whole thing. That's why it's higher than Tai and TK. He's just too funny. Next is the combination of Davis and Mimi in America, but more specifically New York. I enjoyed this because I wanted more screen time for both Mimi and Davis because they just have so much energy. And you can see that with the interaction with the international Digidestined in that segment, that they bring the energy with them as well. Everyone teams up against Cherrymon, and I find it funny that Cherrymon is fighting against a Christmas tree, thinking that it's evil or something. It could have been better, but for what it is, it's light-hearted stuff. And Davis again, he's just too funny as well. He's like Joe. He's got that perfect comedic timing. He acts so confident, introducing himself as if he's this messiah of a Digidestined. And the guy he's introducing himself to has no idea who the hell Davis is. That was just classic Davis. Kari and Izzy in Hong Kong is next for me because this one I would have to say is the most serious plot out of all of the team-ups because we could have ended up having an international incident. Meena, one of the Indian Digidestined, is trying to cross the India-China border with the Digimon, but for obvious reasons she isn't being allowed to do so. There you have the Poi brothers and their partner Digimon, Octomon, team up with Izzy and Kari to give the message that the Digimon all come in peace and are planning to go back to the digital world. I really like this because we all know crossing borders is a real life issue. Look at Brexit, for example. And the way it was handled here, it was fun and smart, using Octomon's ink to send a message to the Chinese army. And they reciprocated with their own message, using each soldier to write the message back to the Digidestined. Yoli and Sora is next. I think we can all agree that compared to the other female characters, Yoli isn't as popular or talked about as much. But here, she shines like the snow of Russia, which is where they were at. The comedy, as I mentioned earlier, was top notch for me. It finally addressed the language barrier, and it was the only section that had the language barrier. However, Yoli, demonstrating her genius, came up with a plan using the Russian food names to break that barrier and instructing which way to fly, left or right. Even Sora commented that she was born to give orders. Look at that. Even though Sora is the original Digidestined and is the older one out of the two, it is Yoli who is the one taking charge of the situation. Sora was okay in this. She didn't do anything major, but this was all Yoli, as it should be because it's her season, not Sora's. The Digimon they were fighting against were just the Flymon, so it wasn't really a major problem for the team in Russia, but it was all about Yoli in this segment and the comedy between the two groups. Now for me, the best group, and I know Ken is probably in my top 2 favorite characters, so I might be a bit biased, but still, this segment had everything. Comedy, good fight scenes, and had a little bit of Indiana Jones as well, with the sneaking inside the Mayan caves. The comedy starts off with Jose distracting all of the security guards with his fake kung fu impressions. How useless are these security guards? I'm surprised no one has stolen all of the Mayan artifacts yet. Inside the cave, they met Rosa and Gatsuman. In the original Japanese, there was a language barrier, but Ken, being a genius, was able to translate. There was a comedic rivalry with Worman and Rosa. I suggest you guys watch it. Worman is so funny in this. We have never seen him like this before. Even with the candles on his head, he looks so goofy. They ended up fighting Minotauro Man and Dokugoman in an attempt on stopping them from destroying the ruins. We even saw for the first time ever a Digivolution sequence that didn't involve any of the partner Digimon. Gatsuman digivolving into Monochromon, which was so cool to see, and with his help, Stigman and Garurumon managed to send back those stray Digimon back into the digital world. Ken and Matt were a good team. It's one of those team ups where you wish both characters had more screen time together. Even though they're both the lone wolf type characters, they brought out the team player side of their characters by interacting with each other, and I think they both realized that, and it looks like they both have massive respect for one another. It wasn't like one character overpowered the other. They both were equally funny and both looked in charge, so it was cool to see both characters on screen like this. That's my ranking on each of the team up segments. Guys, let me know which segment do you guys enjoy the most and why, and give your rankings as well down in the comments. Overall, the team ups, the international Digidestined, and how epically fun these episodes are the prime reason why they're my favorite to watch back. And before I end this video, on this channel the past year, thanks to the release of Digimon Adventure 2020, we have built a little Digimon community in this channel where I would give my review, and several of you along with myself have many debates regarding on theories on what can happen next, your favorite moments in the episode, or even if you straight up hated the episode. I feel we have made a nice little community where we can just enjoy Digimon. And I know sometimes we disagree, but that's because we're so passionate and have so much love for Digimon. That's why there will be disagreements. Disagreements won't make you any less of a fan. It just means you have a different perspective on the show. This year has been a difficult year for most of us, for obvious reasons. But it's been fun discussing Digimon with you guys, and I hope you stay with us for more exciting projects and anime that we will be covering in the future. For all of you who are celebrating Christmas, I hope you have a good one with your friends and family. And for those of you who don't celebrate Christmas, I hope you guys are staying safe in the holidays. Thank you for watching this video, and like I always say, care for nothing.